Hands up. My hand gets crushed. Hello, my name is Byron Spinks. Welcome to Tukwayne Village. In the past, I've talked about how information was handed down from our grandfathers and our forefathers through teachings and through storytelling. But today, I'd like to talk a bit about another way of teaching, that's hands-on learning. And I've been very fortunate that many of my uncles have taught me on the various aspects of our traditional life, our traditional ways of preserving foods, hunting, fishing. But today I'd like to talk about food caches and root cellars. It's an unusual topic, but it's very common throughout our nation. My Uncle Clarence, the late Uncle Clarence Spinks, one day he said, I'm going to bring you out to the land and show you how we preserve food. So in doing that, he took me to one of the original homesteads of the Spinks family on the west side of the Fraser called Squineup. And we could see the remnants of a log cabin where our family lived. And within sight of the cabin, my uncle pointed out the food cache was located about 20 feet above the ground, located on a tree, a large fir tree. And the platform are still there yet, and some of the remnants of the structure is still there, prevalent there yet. And he explained to me that the purpose of having the food cache at that height was to prevent wild animals and bears from accessing it. And the only way to access the food cache was to just literally climbing the tree and entering into the food cache. And the structure is only about 3 feet by 4 feet. And I asked him what type of food that they preserved there, and he said mainly berries and the other types of food that we have that are important to us for underground. And the other type of food cache that he explained to me was located another 20 feet away from that location, and there's the underground pit food cache. And that structure is about 3 to 6 feet in diameter, and when we looked at the food cache, it was lined with tree bark on the edges. And when I asked my uncle what type of food we preserved in this cache, he said the dried salmon, because in this type of food cache, the dried salmon can last for 2 to 3 years. And I was really quite amazed because it is a structure, a hole about this big and about 3 feet down. And he said depending on how much salmon you have, determine the size of the food cache. And this structure is probably 3 feet in diameter and 3 feet deep, and he said you would layer the salmon in the food pit or food cache underground, and put pine needles on top, and when it reaches the top, you can cover it with a wooden structure and have a pole coming up just to indicate where the food cache is located. And this is one type of food cache that's sort of a permanent food cache that you find near residences. But a lot of hunting trails, you'll find many other types of food caches. Those would be very temporary in storing food that the hunters may need on their way out or on their way back from hunting. So those types of food caches are also quite common along the many hunting camps that we have in our territory. And the hunting camps are really good because they're located right along the many trails of the wild game. And so we're going to talk about the food cache again in the future, but this is one of those many stories we'd like to share with you, and we'd like to invite you to Tukwayne Village in 2021, and be happy to share that with you. Homo.